Velkari Empire had ruled the Orion Arm for 12,000 years. 12,000 years of conquest. 12,000 years of expansion. 12,000 years of perfect, unbroken dominance. In less than 3 minutes, that dominance would shatter forever. Commander Dravik stood on the command bridge of the Iron Fang. His scales shifted from deep blue to bright purple, the color of anticipation among his kind, the color of a predator sighting prey. Around him, the bridge hummed with activity. 60 officers worked at their stations. Screens displayed tactical data, sensor readings, energy signatures, the cold mathematics of warfare. 3 ships hung in the void before them: the Iron Fang, the Crimson Dawn, the Shadow's Edge. Each vessel stretched 400 meters from bow to stern. Each carried over 1,000 warriors. Each represented 2 centuries of Valkyrie engineering excellence. And floating ahead of them, small and fragile in the darkness of space, was a human cargo vessel. The ship was called the Autumn Horizon. It measured barely 200 meters in length. Its hull was dull gray metal. Patches of rust-colored oxidation spotted its surface. Large cargo containers clung to its sides like barnacles on a dying whale. The engine signature flickered, weak and inconsistent on Dravik's sensors. Commander Dravik was 450 years old. He had served in the Velkari military for 4 centuries. 400 years of victory. 400 years without a single defeat. He had personally overseen the conquest of 9 species. He had commanded fleets that brought entire star systems to their knees. Humans were nothing, a young species. Barely 200 years since they achieved faster-than-light travel. Children playing with technology they barely understood. Lieutenant Kelvin approached from the sensor station. Kelvin was young for a Valkyrie officer, only 38 years old. His scales still held the bright green of youth. His movements carried the energy of ambition, not yet tempered by experience. "Commander," Kelvin said, his voice carried a note of hesitation. "Permission to speak." Dravik did not turn from the view screen. "Granted. Sir, 3 years ago we sent 12 scout ships into human space." Kelvin paused. His scales flickered yellow, the color of uncertainty. "Only one returned." "I am aware of the report, Lieutenant. The surviving crew mentioned defensive anomalies, energy signatures they could not identify. The captain recommended further reconnaissance before engaging human vessels." Now Dravik turned, his 4 eyes focused on the younger officer. Each eye blinked independently, a gesture of dismissal among his people. "The humans have existed in space for 2 centuries, Lieutenant. 2 centuries. Our empire has stood for 12,000 years. Do you truly believe they pose a threat?" Kelvin's scales shifted to pale white. Submission. "No, Commander. Of course not. The scout ships likely encountered experimental technology. Humans are known to test unstable systems. One ship survived to report because we build superior vessels. Nothing more." Dravik turned back to the view screen. The human cargo ship drifted closer. Its containers rotated slowly on their mounting points. Solar panels extended like broken wings. "Humans are primitives, Lieutenant. They avoid conflict. They prefer trade and diplomacy over strength. They have participated in no major wars in this sector. They are a species of merchants and cowards." Kelvin returned to his station. His scales remained white. Across the bridge at the communications console, another officer raised one clawed hand. "Commander, we are receiving a standard hailing frequency from the human vessel." "Ignore it," Dravik said, prepared to broadcast our terms. The officer hesitated. "Sir, by galactic protocol, we should respond to—" "I give no consideration to protocol with primitives." Dravik's scales flashed bright red, anger. "We are Valkyrie. We set the terms. They obey or they die. Open a channel." The main view screen flickered. Static washed across the display. Then the image resolved. A human face appeared. The being was small compared to a Valkyrie. Its skin was pale, marked with dark spots humans called freckles. Hair the color of rust covered its head. 2 eyes, not 4. A single mouth. Primitive features. But those eyes. Dravik noted them. They were the color of Earth's oceans. Blue-green. And they held something Dravik did not expect. Not fear, not confusion. Something else. Something that looked almost like patience. "This is the Valkyrie warship Iron Fang," Dravik announced. His translator rendered his words into the human's crude language. "You have entered space under our protection. Your cargo and crew are now subject to inspection and tariff collection. Power down your engines. Prepare to be boarded. Any resistance will result in immediate destruction." The human did not react immediately. The being simply sat there, studying Dravik through the screen. Then the human spoke. The voice was calm, professional, the tone of someone reading a weather report. I understand your position, Commander. However, this region is designated as neutral space under the Galactic Navigation Treaty of 2038-90. Your jurisdiction does not extend to this sector. I'm going to have to ask you to withdraw. Dravik's scales rippled with colors, purple to red to black, amusement to anger to lethal intent. Your charts are incorrect, human. This space belongs to the Valkyrie Dominion. You will comply. Commander of the human said, still calm, still professional. I'm going to give you some information. Please listen carefully. What happens next depends entirely on your choices. Dravik leaned forward. His claws gripped the armrests of his command chair. You are in no position to give me information, primitive. The human ignored the insult. My name is Captain Aldrich Thorne. I command the Autumn Horizon. This is your first warning. Turn your ships around, leave this area, return to Valkyrie space. Do this now and everyone aboard your vessels will live to see another day. Silence fell across the Iron Fang's bridge. Every officer turned to stare at the view screen, at this small primitive creature issuing warnings to a Valkyrie battle group. Then laughter erupted. 60 officers found the humor irresistible. A human, warning them, threatening 3 Valkyrie cruisers with a cargo ship. Only Lieutenant Kelvin did not laugh. His scales had shifted to dark gray, the color of deep concern. Dravik silenced the laughter with a gesture. You threaten us, you and your rusting cargo vessel. Threaten the might of the Valkyrie Empire. Captain Thorne shook his head slowly. The gesture was oddly human, sad. I'm not threatening you, Commander. I'm warning you. There's a difference. A threat is what you use to frighten someone. A warning is what you give to someone you're trying to save. Save. Dravik's scales flashed pure crimson now. From what? From you. From the consequences of your own choices. Thorne leaned forward slightly. His blue-green eyes never left the screen. You have 2 options, Commander. Option 1, you withdraw, you leave. You forget this encounter ever happened. Option 2, you attack. And if you attack, the Sentinel Protocol activates. There will be no negotiation after that. No surrender will be accepted. No mercy will be shown. These are your options. Choose wisely. Dravik's claws scraped against metal. Your warnings mean nothing. Your protocols mean nothing. You are alone. We are 3 warships with 3,000 warriors. Your sensor readings show minimal defensive capabilities. Standard point defense systems only. You cannot harm us. That's your second warning, Commander. Thorne's voice remained steady, almost gentle, like a teacher addressing a stubborn student. I've told you what will happen. I've given you a choice. I'm asking you one final time. Please, turn around, leave. Choose life over pride. Third warning acknowledged and dismissed. Dravik rose from his chair. His full height reached nearly 3 meters. His scales shifted to deep black now, the color Valkyrie wore to battle. All ships, target the human vessel. Fire warning shot, aim for their engine section. Show them the price of insulting the Dominion. The weapons officer hesitated. Commander, if they have no shields, a plasma bolt to the engines will fire. The Iron Fang shuddered, its primary plasma cannon discharged. A bolt of superheated energy crossed the space between the ships in less than 2 seconds. It struck the Autumn Horizon along its rear quarter, exactly where Dravik intended. Sparks flew from the impact point. A small fire ignited briefly before vacuum extinguished it. The human ship rocked from the strike. Its containers swayed on their mounting points. Damage assessment, Dravik commanded. The sensor officer studied his console. Minor hull breach in their cargo section. Their engines are still functional. They are, Commander, something is happening. Dravik stared at the view screen. What he saw made his scales drain of all color, shifting to pale white, the color of pure terror among his kind. The Autumn Horizon was changing. Panels along its hull were sliding apart. The cargo containers that had seemed so heavy and awkward were opening, like flowers blooming in accelerated time, like a predator shedding camouflage. Shapes emerged from within the containers. Shapes that gleamed with polished metal. Shapes that looked very much like weapons. Missile tubes, dozens of them, hundreds of them. The rust-colored patches on the hull fell away. Beneath them lay armor plating that reflected starlight like mirrors. The old communication arrays folded back and disappeared. In their place, targeting systems emerged. Advanced systems. Systems that swiveled toward the Valkyrie ships with mechanical precision. What had looked like a dying animal was now very clearly a predator. A predator that had been pretending to sleep. Evasive maneuvers, Dravik screamed. All ships scatter pattern delta, maximum thrust. But it was too late. On the view screen, Captain Thorne had not moved from his chair. His expression had not changed. He simply sat there, watching, waiting. Then he spoke. 3 words, delivered in that same calm, professional tone. Weapons free. Execute. The transformation took 12 seconds. To Commander Dravik, watching from the Iron Fang's bridge, it felt like 12 lifetimes. The autumn horizon had shed its disguise completely now. The cargo vessel was gone. In its place hung a warship. Sleek, deadly, bristling with weapons that glowed with ready heat. But it was the speed that truly terrified Dravik. The human ship had seemed slow before, sluggish. Now it moved like a hunting cat. It accelerated beyond anything a cargo vessel should be capable of. It closed the distance to the Crimson Dawn in 3 seconds. All ships fire, Dravik shouted. Everything, all weapons. The 3 Valkyrie cruisers opened fire. Plasma cannons blazed. Missile batteries launched their payloads. Kinetic railguns hurled tungsten penetrators at relativistic speeds. The void between the ships lit up like a star going nova. Not a single shot reached the autumn horizon. The human ship had shields, not standard deflector shields. Something else. Something that bent space itself. The Valkyrie weapons struck an invisible barrier 300 meters from the human vessel. Energy weapons dispersed into harmless radiation. Missiles detonated prematurely. Kinetic rounds slowed, stopped, and hung frozen in space. Then the human ship returned fire. The missiles were small, barely visible on sensors. But there were hundreds of them. They poured from the autumn horizon like angry insects from a disturbed hive. They moved with impossible speed, weaving, dodging, splitting into submunitions, rejoining into penetrator formations. The Crimson Dawn tried to defend itself, its point defense systems activated. Automated guns tracked the incoming missiles. They fired. They hit some targets. Missiles exploded in brief flashes of light. But for every missile destroyed, 5 more slipped through. The first wave struck the Crimson Dawn's shield generators. The shields held for exactly 1.3 seconds, then collapsed under sustained assault. The second wave hit the armor plating. Valkyrie battle armor, rated to withstand plasma temperatures exceeding 10,000 degrees. The missiles tore through it like paper. The third wave entered the breaches and found the reactor core. Time seemed to stop. Lieutenant Kelvin watched from the Iron Fang's sensor station. He watched the missiles penetrate the Crimson Dawn's reactor compartment. He watched the containment fields destabilize. He watched the reactor go critical. The Crimson Dawn vanished. Not gradually, not in stages. One moment a warship, the next moment a ball of expanding plasma bright enough to hurt the eyes even through filtered view screens. 1,156 Valkyrie warriors. Gone. Just like that. Impossible, Dravik whispered. His scales had lost all color now. Pure white. Shock. This cannot be happening. The Shadow's Edge tried to run. Its captain, a veteran officer named Veskara, had the right instinct. She ordered full power to engines. Her ship lurched forward, trying to escape, trying to reach the minimum distance for a hyperspace jump. For 11 seconds, it seemed like she might succeed. The Shadow's Edge pulled ahead of the missile swarm, gaining distance. Its engines burned at 120% rated capacity. Then the missiles adjusted their course. They were not simple weapons, not fire-and-forget projectiles. They were guided, controlled by computers that tracked their targets with cold precision. They compensated for the Shadow's Edge's acceleration. They plotted intercept vectors. They executed. The Shadow's Edge died screaming, its hull torn apart from stern to bow. Explosions rippled through its interior like a wave. 921 crew members had time to realize what was happening, time to feel fear, time to die. Now only the Iron Fang remained, one ship against the human vessel, one ship that had seemed so powerful just moments ago. Dravik stared at his tactical display. 2 cruisers, gone. 3 minutes since the first warning shot. 2,077 warriors dead. His claws trembled. His scales shifted through colors randomly. White to gray, to yellow, to white again. Fear. Pure, undiluted fear. On the view screen, Captain Thorne sat in his chair. His expression had not changed. Not anger, not satisfaction, not triumph, just tired professionalism. The face of someone doing an unpleasant but necessary job. Commander Dravik, Thorne said, his voice still calm, still gentle. I gave you 3 warnings. You chose to ignore them. You chose to fire first. What happens next is not my doing. It's yours. Wait, Dravik's voice cracked. 4 centuries of command authority shattered. I surrender, we will power down our weapons, please. Silence. The missiles were already coming. Dravik could see them on sensors. 47 missiles. Small lights moving across the tactical display like falling stars. Each one carried enough explosive power to tear through Valkyrie armor like tissue paper. Human vessel, Dravik shouted. I am surrendering. We are powering down weapons. Please respond. No response. The missiles did not slow, did not change course. They continued their steady approach toward the Iron Fang with mechanical patience. Why bow? Dravik screamed. We are surrendering. Civilized species accept surrender. Still no answer. Lieutenant Kelvin stood at his station. His scales had turned completely gray now, the color of acceptance, of understanding. He looked at his commander, at the being who had led them here, at the warrior who had doomed them all with pride. Commander, Kelvin said quietly, he told us, 3 times. He warned us what would happen if we attacked. We did not listen. Dravik turned on him. He should accept our surrender. That is the rule. That is how warfare works. Perhaps, Kelvin said, for species like us, species who fight for territory or honor or glory. But I think humans are different. They do not fight for pride. They fight to end fighting, permanently. Aboard the Autumn Horizon, Captain Aldrich Thorne watched his tactical display. Lieutenant Cade Merrick stood at the weapons station. Chief Engineer Lyra Vex monitored the power systems. Dr. Orrin Keltz observed from the science station. All veterans, all professionals, all silent. Merrick spoke without looking away from his console. Sir, the Valkyrie commander is attempting to surrender. Should we abort the attack? Thorne did not answer immediately. He stared at the display, at the Iron Fang, at the missiles closing in, at the life signs aboard the enemy vessel. Lieutenant Merrick, Thorne said, when did Commander Dravik decide to surrender? Merrick checked his timeline. After we destroyed his other 2 ships, Captain. And before that, what did he do? He fired on us. He demanded our surrender. He ignored your warnings. Thorne nodded slowly. He had 3 chances to walk away. First, when I told him to leave. Second, when I warned him about the Sentinel protocol. Third, when we revealed our capabilities. He only wishes to surrender now because he is losing. Merrick's jaw tightened, but he nodded. I understand, Captain. Thorne leaned back in his chair. His blue-green eyes held something that might have been sadness. There is an old human saying, Lieutenant, you cannot start a fight and then complain about the rules. Commander Dravik started this. He chose the terms of engagement when he fired on our ship. We did not choose these terms. We are simply following them to their conclusion. He paused, then spoke again, softer now, almost too quiet to hear. If we accepted surrender after an attack, what lesson would that teach attack humans? If you win, you win. If you lose, surrender and live. Try again later. That is not a lesson. That is an invitation to repeat the mistake. Thorne's fingers drummed against his armrest. Once, twice, 3 times. No, the lesson must be clear, unmistakable. Attack a human vessel and you die. Not might die, not could die, you die. Simple, clean, impossible to misunderstand. Chief Vex spoke from her station. Captain, I have 743 life signs in escape pods. Survivors from the first 2 ships. Should we target them? Absolutely not. Thorne's voice sharpened. Tag all escape pods as non-combatants. Missiles are to avoid them by a minimum of 500 meters. I want a clear buffer zone. Acknowledged, Captain. Pods tagged. Missiles programmed. On the view screen, the Iron Fang tried one last desperate maneuver. It fired all thrusters simultaneously, trying to accelerate, trying to turn, trying anything to escape. The missiles adjusted. They tracked the Iron Fang's movements. They compensated for every course change. They closed in. Dravik watched them come. 47 missiles. On his sensors, they looked almost beautiful. Clean trajectories, perfect geometry, mathematical precision. He thought of his clutchmate, his children, his 400-year career, all the victories, all the conquered worlds, all the species who had knelt before him. He thought of the human captain, the calm voice, the patient warnings, the sad eyes. He thought we should have listened. The missiles struck. The Iron Fang was a proud ship. It had served the Valkyrie Dominion for 180 years. It had carried 3 generations of commanders into battle. Its name was written in the histories of 17 conquered worlds. It died in 8 seconds. The first wave hit the shield generators. The shields held for 1 second, then failed. The second wave hit the armor plating, tearing great wounds in the ship's hull. The third wave entered those wounds, found the reactor core, found the containment systems, found the heart of the ship. The explosion was brief, clean, efficient. Where there had been a warship, there was now only expanding debris, glowing metal, frozen atmosphere, and silence. 1,243 Valkyrie warriors, gone. Commander Dravik's final thought in the microsecond before his consciousness ended was a question that would never be answered. Why would they not accept our surrender? But the answer existed, written in human history, written in 10,000 years of warfare against themselves, written in the hard lessons learned through blood and fire and nuclear ash. Because surrender after attack teaches nothing. Because mercy after violence encourages more violence. Because the only way to stop a predator is to make it fear you more than it desires your prey. Humans had learned this lesson the hard way, through countless wars, through near-extinction events, through watching their own civilization nearly collapse 3 separate times. They had learned that kindness without strength was weakness, that forgiveness without consequence was invitation, that peace was not the absence of war, but the result of making war too costly to consider. And now they were teaching this lesson to the galaxy. Aboard the Autumn Horizon, silence held the bridge. No one spoke, no one moved. The weight of what they had done hung in the air like smoke. Finally, Captain Thorne broke the silence. Time from first warning shot to total engagement termination. 2 minutes 43 seconds, Captain, Merrick reported. Casualties. Valkyrie 2090 crew terminated. 743 survivors in escape pods. Our status. Minor hull breach from the warning shot. Repair teams already deployed. Shields at 78%. All weapon systems green. We are combat effective, Captain. Thorne nodded. He pressed a control on his armrest, opening a communication channel. Not to Earth, not to Valkyrie space. To the escape pods floating in the debris field. Valkyrie survivors, he said, his voice carried across space. Into 743 escape pods. Into 743 pairs of ears. This is Captain Aldrich Thorne of the Autumn Horizon. Your commanders chose to attack a human vessel without provocation. They were warned. They ignored those warnings. They fired first. The consequence of that choice is what you see around you. He paused. Let that sink in. Let them look at the debris that had been their ships, their friends, their commanders. You are not my enemies, Thorne continued. You did not choose this fight. Your leaders did. I will not punish you for their mistakes. Rescue vessels are already en route to your position. Estimated arrival 6 hours. You will be provided medical attention, food, water, and shelter. And you will be treated according to the Galactic Convention on Prisoners of War. When the immediate crisis has passed, you will be returned to Valkyrie space. Another pause, longer this time. I want you to remember something, Thorne said. His voice was soft now, almost gentle, but it carried the weight of absolute certainty. Remember what happened here today. Remember that you were warned. Remember that your leaders had every opportunity to choose peace. They chose war instead. This is the result. This is what happens when someone attacks a human vessel. He leaned forward slightly. Go home. Tell your people what you saw. Tell them that humans do not seek conflict. But when conflict comes to us, we end it. Completely. Permanently. Tell them that we will destroy anyone who fires first, and we will save anyone who asks for help. These are simple rules, easy to follow. Choose wisely. The communication cut out. Thorne sat back in his chair. His hands were steady, his face was calm. But in his eyes, if someone looked closely, they might have seen something else. Something that looked almost like grief. Lieutenant Merrick, he said quietly, log the engagement. Full report to Earth Command. Include all tactical data. I want this documented. Aye, Captain. Report filing now. Chief Vex status on rescue operations. 2 support vessels dispatched from Neptune Station. They will reach the survivors in 5 hours, 52 minutes. Medical teams are standing by. Good. Thorne stood. His joints ached. 42 years old. 22 years of military service. 6 years commanding a Sentinel vessel. This would be his 15th engagement. Each one felt heavier than the last. He walked to the view screen, stared out at the debris field, at the escape pods, at the expanding clouds of frozen atmosphere and shattered metal. 2,090 lives ended in less than 3 minutes because a commander was too proud to listen, too arrogant to believe a warning, too certain of his own superiority to consider that he might be wrong. Captain Dr. Keltz approached quietly. "Are you all right?" Thorne did not turn. "I killed 2,090 beings today, Doctor. I will never be all right with that, but I am at peace with it. There is a difference. They attacked us first." "Yes, they did, and that is why they died. Not because I hate them, not because I wanted them dead, but because the rules must be clear. Attack us and die. No exceptions, no second chances, no negotiation after the first shot is fired." Keltz nodded slowly. "You think it will work? You think the galaxy will learn?" Thorne finally turned, looked at his science officer. "They will learn, Doctor, because we will teach them, again and again if necessary, until the lesson is so clear, so obvious, so undeniable that even the most arrogant species understands. You do not attack humans, ever." He returned to his chair, settled into it. "Resume course to Neptune Station, standard speed. I want to be there when the survivors arrive. I want to look them in the eye. I want them to see that I am not a monster. Just a man who follows rules. Their rules. The ones their commander chose when he fired that first shot." The autumn horizon turned away from the debris field. Its engines glowed soft blue. It accelerated, leaving behind the wreckage of 3 Volcari cruisers and the lesson written in their destruction. Across the sector, sensors had detected the engagement. Automated beacons had recorded everything. Within hours, the data would spread to Volcari High Command, to other species, to every corner of the Orion Arm. The message would be clear. Humans had arrived, and they played by different rules. Attack them, and you died. Help them, and they helped you. Leave them alone, and they left you alone. 3 simple rules, 3 outcomes. Nothing complicated, nothing hidden. The galaxy was about to learn what those rules meant. And for some, like the 743 survivors floating in their escape pods, watching the human ship disappear into the distance, the lesson had already begun. Lieutenant Kelvin sat in his pod. His scales were gray, the color of mourning, the color of understanding. He had watched Commander Dravik die, had watched 2,000 warriors die, had watched 3 proud warships reduced to debris in less than 3 minutes. But he had also heard Captain Thorne's words, had heard the promise of rescue, had heard the offer of mercy to those who had left the battlefield. The humans were not monsters. They were not cruel. They were not driven by hatred. They were simply consistent, absolutely, perfectly, terrifyingly consistent. You attacked, you died. You surrendered before firing, you lived. You asked for help, they helped. You left them alone, they left you alone. Simple rules, clear rules. Rules without exceptions. Kelvin looked out through his pod's small viewport, at the debris field, at his dead commander's ship, at the human vessel growing smaller in the distance. He thought, we were fools. We were warned. We should have listened. But we did not. And now 2,000 of us are dead, and 700 of us are alive, because the humans chose mercy for those who left the fight. What kind of species does that? What kind of species kills without hesitation when attacked but saves without question when combat ends? What kind of species is so merciful and so merciless at the same time? The answer came to him slowly, like dawn breaking after a long night. A species that had learned, a species that had suffered, a species that had nearly destroyed itself and chose not to, a species that understood the cost of war and the value of peace, a species that would teach the galaxy whether the galaxy wanted to learn or not. Kelvin closed his 4 eyes, settled back against his pod's crash seat, and waited for rescue. And in that waiting and that silence, in that cold void between death and salvation, he made a choice. He would survive. He would return home. He would tell his people what he had seen, and he would make sure they understood. The humans were not the enemy. Pride was the enemy. Arrogance was the enemy. The refusal to listen to warnings was the enemy. And that enemy had just killed 2,000 Volcari warriors in less than 3 minutes. The lesson was written in blood and fire and frozen corpses. Now it remained to be seen whether the Volcari Empire would learn it, or whether they, like Commander Dravik, would let pride lead them to destruction. The answer to that question would determine the fate of not just the Volcari, but of every species in the Orion Arm. The age of easy conquest was over. The age of the Sentinel Protocol had begun. 6 hours after the bow, Captain Aldrich Thorne stood in the cargo bay of the Autumn Horizon. The bay had been converted into a temporary medical facility. White partitions divided the space into treatment areas. Medical equipment hummed softly. The air smelled of antiseptic and recycled oxygen. 743 Valkyrie survivors sat or lay throughout the bay. Some nursed minor injuries, burns from emergency pod ejections, broken limbs from rough evacuations. Most were simply in shock, staring at nothing, processing what they had witnessed. Thorne walked among them slowly. His boots made soft sounds against the metal deck plating. His uniform was clean now. He had showered, changed, removed the physical marks of combat, but his eyes carried the weight of what he had done. A young Valkyrie male watched him approach. The alien's scales were pale gray, the color of grief among his kind. One arm hung in a sling, a medical patch covered burns along his neck. Thorne recognized him from the sensor logs. Lieutenant Kelvin, the officer who had tried to warn Commander Dravik, the one whose scales had turned yellow with uncertainty when his commander dismissed the reports of missing scout ships. Lieutenant Kelvin, Thorne said quietly. He stopped a respectful distance away. Not threatening, not looming, simply present. Kelvin's four eyes blinked in sequence, a gesture of acknowledgement. Captain Thorne, how are you being treated? Your doctors are competent, professional. Kelvin's translator rendered his words into English. The voice carried exhaustion. They have shown us more kindness than we deserve. You deserve medical care, Lieutenant. You are not combatants anymore. You are survivors. There is a difference. Kelvin's scales shifted slightly, darker gray now. 2,090 of my people are dead, because of me. No, Thorne's voice was firm, because of Commander Dravik's choices. You tried to warn him. I heard you on our recordings. You advised caution. He dismissed you. I should have tried harder, should have insisted. Thorne pulled over a storage crate, sat down on it, bringing himself to Kelvin's eye level. Lieutenant, I have learned one thing above all others. You cannot save people from their own pride. Commander Dravik had every piece of information he needed. The missing scouts, my 3 warnings, our revealed capabilities. He chose to ignore all of it. That is on him, not you. Kelvin was silent for a long moment. His scales cycled through colors, gray to white to pale blue, grief to fear to something that might have been acceptance. Why did you not kill us? He finally asked. In our pods. We were helpless. You could have eliminated all witnesses. Thorne's expression did not change. Because you left the battlefield. The moment you entered that escape pod, you stopped being my enemy. You became a refugee, a survivor, someone who needed help. And humans help people who need help. But we attacked you. Your commanders attacked me. You followed orders. I will not punish soldiers for following orders unless those orders involved war crimes. Fleeing a losing battle is not a war crime. It is survival. Kelvin's scales shifted again, this time to a faint green, the color of curiosity among his species. What will happen to us now? You will be held here for 72 hours, sufficient time to ensure no medical emergencies. Then you will be transferred to a neutral station. From there, the Valkyrie government will arrange your return home. You are not prisoners, you are not hostages, you are simply people we pulled from the wreckage. And when we return, what then? Thorne stood, looked down at the Valkyrie officer. Then you tell your people what you saw. You tell them that humans gave you 3 warnings. You tell them what happened when those warnings were ignored. And you tell them that when combat ended, we provided medical care and safe passage home. He turned to leave, then stopped, looked back. Lieutenant Kelvin, you seem like an intelligent officer, someone who learns from experience. I hope your people listen to you better than Commander Dravik did. Thorne walked away, leaving Kelvin sitting among the other survivors, thinking, processing, beginning to understand. Across the medical bay, Dr. Orrin Keltz approached. The science officer's face was drawn, tired. He had been working with the medical team for 6 straight hours, treating injuries, providing comfort, documenting everything for the official report. Captain, Keltz said quietly, I need to show you something. They moved to a private section of the bay, a small office space. Keltz activated a holographic display. Images appeared in the air, sensor logs, communication intercepts, intelligence data. This came through while you were speaking with the survivors, Keltz explained. From Earth Command, Priority Alpha Classification. Thorne studied the data, his eyes narrowed. How long have they known? About the multiple engagements, at least 3 years, maybe longer. They've been tracking every species that approached human space with hostile intent, documenting the outcomes. The hologram shifted, displayed a star map, sectors of space marked in different colors: red zones, green zones, gray zones. The red zones are species that attacked us, Keltz continued. The green zones are species that cooperated. Gray zones are those that maintain neutrality. Thorne counted the red zones, 5 of them. Show me. The first image appeared, a reptilian species, heavily muscled, covered in natural armor plating. The data scrolled beside the image. The Draxon's sovereignty, Keltz read. 2 years ago, they attacked a human mining colony on Kepler 186f, 300 colonists. The Draxons came in force, 40 warships. They expected easy conquest. What happened? 2 Sentinel vessels responded. The battle lasted 4 minutes. All 40 Draxon warships destroyed. Then the Sentinel vessels proceeded to the Draxon homeworld. They did not invade. They did not bombard. They simply established an orbital blockade. No ships in, no ships out. For how long? 18 months and counting. The Draxon economy has collapsed by 70%. Starvation is widespread. Their government has requested negotiations 16 times. We have responded the same way each time. The blockade will lift when full reparations are paid to the families of the murdered colonists. Until then, they sit, they suffer, they learn. The image changed. A different species, insectoid, composed of metallic segments, glowing with internal energy. The Synthera Collective, Keltz said. Artificial intelligence hive mind. They attempted to hack our communication networks, thought they could infiltrate our systems, take control of our infrastructure. I remember hearing about this. Last year, correct, they succeeded in penetrating our outer security layers, got deep into our networks, started mapping our systems. Keltz paused. Then they found what we wanted them to find: a trap, a virus designed specifically for distributed AI consciousness. It did not destroy them. That would have been mercy. It shut them down. Completely. Every ship, every station, every drone. How long? 3 weeks. 3 weeks of total darkness. When we finally reactivated them, their entire civilization had regressed. No space travel, no advanced computation. They have spent the last year rebuilding basic infrastructure. It will take them a century to recover their previous capability. 3 more species followed, each one a lesson in consequences. The Korvath Reavers, pirates who raided human trade routes. Their bases were found, destroyed. Their ships hunted across 200 systems. They existed now only as scattered refugees, begging for sanctuary from the very species they had once preyed upon. The pattern was clear, brutal, undeniable. Attack humans and face annihilation, not quick death, slow destruction, economic collapse, technological regression, the kind of punishment that lasted generations. But the Green Zones told a different story. The Morellian Commonwealth, Keltz explained, they approached us 5 years ago, offered trade, medical knowledge in exchange for agricultural technology. We agreed. The partnership has been profitable for both sides. Morellian lifespan has increased by 25 years due to our medicine. Our food production has increased by 40% due to their biological engineering. The next image showed a crystalline species, beautiful, delicate structures that refracted light into rainbows. The Thalassian expanse. They wanted nothing from us. We wanted nothing from them. They maintain their borders. We maintain ours. We have traded precisely 3 diplomatic messages in 4 years. All cordial, all respectful. They leave us alone. We leave them alone. Both civilizations prosper. Thorne stared at the data. 5 species punished, 2 species rewarded, 1 species respected for choosing neutrality. This is deliberate, he said quietly. This is policy. Earth Command has been running an experiment, using the Sentinel vessels to teach the galaxy how to interact with us. Yes, sir, and it is working. Intelligence shows that 17 other species have adjusted their policies toward the humans based on observing these outcomes. They see what happened to the Draxons. They see what happened to the Morellians. They are making rational choices based on demonstrated patterns. Thorne's jaw tightened. How many people know about this, about the deliberate nature of the program? At your level, maybe 50 captains, maybe fewer. Most Sentinel commanders think they are simply defending human interests. They do not realize they are part of a larger educational program. And now I know. Yes, sir, Admiral Korvax felt you needed to understand the broader context, especially after today's engagement. The Valkyrie are not a minor species. They are an empire, 12,000 years old. This will have repercussions. Thorne turned away from the hologram, walked to the viewport, stared out at the stars. So I am not just a captain. I am a teacher. And today's lesson cost 2,000 lives. Yes, sir. And you think that is acceptable? You think that is justified? Keltz hesitated, then spoke carefully. Think, Captain, that teaching through demonstration is more effective than teaching through words. Words can be dismissed, ignored, misinterpreted. But actions, results, those cannot be argued with. The Draxans learned not to attack human colonies. The Synthera learned not to hack our systems. And today the Valkyrie learned not to fire on our ships. At what cost? At exactly the cost required to make the lesson permanent. Sir, I have studied human history. I specialized in pre-spaceflight conflict studies. Do you know how many people died in Earth's 20th century wars? Over 100 million. And why? Because we kept trying to solve problems through force. We kept believing that overwhelming violence would bring lasting peace. It never did. Violence only brought more violence. Keltz moved to stand beside Thorne at the viewport. But what we are doing now, this is different. We are not conquering. We are not enslaving. We are not seeking dominance. We are simply teaching one lesson over and over until the entire galaxy understands. Those who attack us die. Those who help us prosper. Those who ignore us remain sovereign. 3 simple rules. And every species that learns these rules becomes safer, more peaceful, more rational. Thorne's reflection stared back at him from the viewport glass. Gray hair at the temples, lines around the eyes, the face of a man who had killed 2,000 beings and would carry that weight forever. I hope you are right, Doctor, he said quietly. I hope 2,000 deaths today prevent 2 million deaths tomorrow. Because if you are wrong, if this experiment fails, then I am nothing more than a murderer with a uniform and a justification. You are not a murderer, sir. You are a soldier following lawful orders in defense of human space. The Draxans probably say the same thing about their warriors. The Synthera probably justified their hacking as defensive reconnaissance. Commander Dravik probably believed he was protecting Valkyrie interests. Everyone has justifications, Doctor. The question is whether our justifications are actually better than theirs, or if we have just become very good at rationalizing necessary evils. Keltz had no answer to that. They stood together in silence, 2 men staring at stars, wondering if they were heroes or villains, teachers or executioners. The answer Thorne suspected depended on who was writing the history. 300 light years away in the Grand Council chamber of the Valkyrie homeworld, silence held the room. Matriarch Thesara sat at the head of the council table. Her scales had faded to pale gray. 850 years old. She had seen empires rise. She had seen empires fall. She had warned against this, had counseled caution, had been ignored. Now she watched the combat footage for the 3rd time. The holographic display showed everything. Commander Dravik's approach, Captain Thorne's 3 warnings, the warning shot, the transformation, the battle, the destruction, 2 minutes and 43 seconds of total devastation. 12 council members sat around the table, all silent, all staring, all trying to comprehend what they had witnessed. General Kryn broke the silence first. He was young for his rank, only 380 years old. His scales held the deep red of aggression, the color of a warrior who had never known true defeat. This is an act of war, Kryn said. His voice carried outrage, fury. 2,000 Valkyrie warriors slaughtered, 3 cruisers destroyed. We must respond with overwhelming force. We must show these humans that such aggression will not be tolerated. Thesara did not respond immediately. She simply gestured to the holographic display. Watch it again, General. Tell me what you see. I see humans murdering our people. Watch again. The footage played once more. Dravik's demands, Thorne's warnings, the transformation, the destruction. Do you see, Thesara said quietly, that the humans gave Commander Dravik 3 opportunities to withdraw? Do you see that they warned him explicitly what would happen if he attacked? Do you see that he fired first? They should have accepted his surrender. Why? The question came from Elder Viscara, an ancient female. Her scales were almost completely gray, 900 years old, nearly as old as Thesara herself. Tell me, General Kryn, why should they accept surrender after being attacked? What incentive would that create? Kryn's scales rippled with confusion. It is the civilized thing to do. It is the rule of war. Is it? Vescara leaned forward. Let me ask you something. If we knew that attacking a weaker species carried no real risk because they would always accept surrender, how many species would we have attacked over our 12,000-year history? That is different. We are Valkyrie. We are conquerors. The Sara interrupted. Let us not pretend otherwise. We have subjugated 47 species. We have taken their worlds, enslaved their populations, built an empire on the backs of those too weak to resist. And we could do this because the weak always surrendered when defeat became inevitable. They believed surrender would save their lives. She gestured to the holographic display. But the humans have changed the rules. They have said very clearly, attack us and die. No surrender will be accepted. No mercy will be shown. The only choice is to not attack at all. It is barbaric. Is it? Elder Viscara tilted her head. Or is it simply honest? We have spent 12,000 years pretending our conquests were civilized because we accepted surrender. We told ourselves we were better than the Korvath pirates or the Drax enslavers because we followed the rules of war. But the truth is we were simply more sophisticated in our brutality. We gave the weak the illusion of choice while ensuring they could never truly escape our dominion. She paused. Let that sink in. The humans offer no such illusions. They tell you exactly what will happen. Attack and die. Help and prosper. Ignore and be ignored. Brutal honesty instead of civilized lies. Perhaps that is more moral than our way, not less. You cannot possibly believe that. The Sara raised one clawed hand. General Kryn, before we discuss morality, perhaps we should discuss capability. Tell me, how many Sentinel vessels do the humans have? Kryn's scales shifted to pale white. Our intelligence suggests perhaps 10, maybe 20. Wrong. The Sara activated another holographic display. Show him. The image changed, showed a report, an intelligence briefing captured from a human data stream. Kryn read it, his scales drained of all color. 187, he whispered. 187 Sentinel vessels. Each one capable of destroying 3 cruisers in under 3 minutes. Each one disguised as a civilian ship. Each one waiting, watching, ready. The Sara's ancient eyes fixed on the general. We have 340 cruisers in our entire fleet. Even if we attacked with every ship simultaneously, we would be outnumbered, outgunned, and based on what we just witnessed, outmatched in every tactical category. Then we must build more ships, develop better weapons, match their capability. With what time, what resources, General, the humans have had these vessels operational for at least 6 years, probably longer. They have been building them while we were complacent, while we were conquering species that could not fight back, while we were fat and comfortable and certain of our superiority. They were preparing, planning, waiting for species like us to make the mistake Commander Dravik made. The Sara stood, her old bones creaked. I am 850 years old. I have seen 3 galactic empires fall. The Korvax supremacy, the Draxan hegemony, the Thalassian Federation. All of them believed they were eternal. All of them believed they were invincible. All of them fell because they could not adapt when the galaxy changed around them. She moved to the window, looked out at the Valkyrie capital city. Billions of her people going about their lives, unaware that their empire teetered on the edge of irrelevance. The galaxy has changed, the Sara said quietly. Humanity has arrived, and they are not like the species we have conquered. They are not primitives to be enslaved. They are not cowards to be intimidated. They are something we have never encountered before. A species that chose strength not for conquest but for defense. A species that will destroy any threat without hesitation or mercy. And a species that will help any friend with equal commitment. She turned back to the council. We have a choice. We can fight them and die, or we can learn from them and live. There is no third option. General Kryn's scales cycled through colors, red to white to yellow to gray, anger to fear to uncertainty to resignation. What do you propose? I propose we send an emissary, someone who survived the engagement, someone who saw what happened, someone who can learn what the humans truly want and whether peace is possible. Who? The Sara smiled. It was a small gesture, sad, knowing. Lieutenant Kelvin, the junior officer who tried to warn Commander Dravik. He will understand what we need him to do. The council voted, 7 in favor, 5 opposed. General Kryn abstained. The decision was made. Lieutenant Kelvin would travel to human space, would meet with Captain Aldrich Thorne, would learn, And perhaps if the spirits were kind, would find a way for the Valkyrie Empire to survive its encounter with humanity. 60 days later, Lieutenant Kelvin stood aboard a civilian transport approaching Neptune Station. His scales were neutral gray, the color of formality among his kind. His dress uniform was immaculate. His orders were clear: learn what the humans want, learn how they think, find a path to peace, do not fail. The transport docked. Kelvin walked through the airlock into the station. It was a massive structure, 3 kilometers across, home to 50,000 beings from 100 species, a neutral meeting ground, a place where even enemies could talk. Captain Aldrich Thorne waited in the reception area. He wore his uniform, clean, pressed, professional. His blue-green eyes studied Kelvin without hostility, without warmth, simply observing. "Lieutenant Kelvin," Thorne said, "welcome to Neptune Station." "Captain Thorne," Kelvin's translator rendered his formal greeting into English, "I am honored by your willingness to meet. Walk with me, Lieutenant. We have much to discuss." They walked through the station corridors, past shops and restaurants, past observation decks where beings from across the galaxy stared out at the ice giant Neptune hanging in space like a blue jewel. "Your government wants to understand us," Thorne said. It was not a question. They want to know if peace is possible, if we can be reasoned with, if there is a way to avoid more engagements like the one that killed Commander Dravik. "Yes, Captain, that is correct." "The answer is simple, Lieutenant. Those who leave us alone, we leave alone. Those who attack us, we destroy. Those who help us, we help in return. 3 rules. Nothing complicated. But how did you become so powerful? Your species has only been in space for 200 years. We have been expanding for 12,000 years. How is it possible that you possess technology so far beyond ours?" Thorne stopped walking, turned to face Kelvin directly. "Would you like the truth, Lieutenant? The whole truth, or would you prefer comfortable lies?" Kelvin's scales shifted to dark blue, the color of determination. "Truth, Captain. No matter how uncomfortable. Then come with me. There is something you need to see." They took a transport pod to the military section of the station. Security checkpoints, biometric scans, armed guards. Kelvin noticed that every guard was human. No mixed species here. This was a place of secrets. They entered a restricted conference room. The walls were lined with display screens. Thorne activated the central holographic projector. An image appeared. Ancient, beautiful, terrible. A structure, massive beyond comprehension. It floated in space like a monument to a forgotten god. Kilometers long, studded with weapons, glowing with internal power. "This," Thorne said quietly, "is what we found 50 years ago on a dead world in the Kepler 442 system. One of 12 identical structures. We call them the Titans. The beings who built them called themselves the architects." Kelvin stared. His 4 eyes could not process what they were seeing. How old is this? 50,000 years, give or take a millennium. The architects were ancient when the Valkyrie Empire was young. They had technology we still do not fully understand. They had power we can barely imagine. And they built these 12 structures for one purpose. Thorne paused. To fight something that wanted to consume the entire galaxy. The hologram shifted, showed different images, ruins, archaeological sites, translation matrices. Slowly, painfully, the story emerged. The architects had detected something, an entity, a force, moving through the galaxy like a wildfire, consuming everything, planets, stars, entire civilizations. They called it the Void, the Galaxy Eater, the end of all things. The architects built the Titans to fight it. Weapons beyond comprehension, power beyond measure. They prepared for 200 years, built vast fortifications, evacuated billions to safe zones, and then they died. Not in battle with the Void. The Void simply stopped, collapsed, disappeared. No one knew why. No one ever found out. The architects died waiting for an enemy that never came. "We found their ruins 50 years ago," Thorne continued. "A human exploration team, looking for habitable worlds. They found a graveyard instead. The architects' final cities, their ships, their weapons, and the 12 Titans. Still functional, still waiting, still ready for a battle that had ended 50,000 years ago." Kelvin's mind reeled. "And you took them." "We studied them for 3 years, trying to understand what they were, what they could do. We ran simulations, tests, assessments. And we realized we had found something terrifying: the power to destroy entire solar systems, the power to reshape the galaxy, the power to become gods or monsters. Thorn deactivated the hologram. The ancient images faded. So we debated. For 5 years, Earth's leadership argued about what to do. Some wanted to use the Titans to conquer, to establish human dominance, to ensure no species could ever threaten us. Some wanted to destroy them. Too dangerous, too much power. We would become the very thing we feared. And the third faction suggested a middle path. Use the architect technology, but not the Titans themselves. Study their sensors, their shields, their energy systems. Integrate that knowledge into human ships. Build a defensive fleet. Make ourselves too dangerous to attack, but never use that power for conquest. Be strong enough that war becomes too costly to wage against us, but not so strong that we become tempted to use that strength for evil. Thorn sat down, gestured for Kelvin to do the same. The vote was close: 7 in favor of the defensive plan, 5 in favor of destruction, 0 in favor of conquest, thankfully. And so we built the Sentinel program. 187 ships, each one using modified architect technology, each one crewed by people who understood the mission. Not to conquer, not to dominate, but to teach. Teach. Yes, Lieutenant, teach. We studied 10,000 years of human history. We learned one simple truth: species respond to incentives. If you make war profitable, you get more war. If you make peace profitable, you get more peace. So we created a system of perfect incentives. Thorn leaned forward. Those who attack us die. No exceptions. No surrender accepted. Death. Absolute and final. Those who help us prosper. Trade, technology, medicine, alliance, mutual benefit. Those who ignore us, we ignore. Complete sovereignty. No interference. 3 options. 3 outcomes. Clear, simple, predictable. Kelvin's scales shifted through multiple colors. Processing, understanding. You are teaching the galaxy through fear and reward. Yes, and it is working. 17 species have changed their policies toward us based on observing outcomes. Species that might have attacked us decided not to. Species that feared us learned we could be trusted. Species that ignored us found we kept our word about non-interference. The system works because it is consistent, because we never break the rules, because every species gets exactly what they choose. And the Titans, the originals. Thorn's expression grew distant. They orbit Earth, all 12 of them. Inactive, dormant, guarded. We have never activated them. Not once in 50 years, because activating them would mean something has gone so catastrophically wrong that we need to destroy solar systems. We hope that day never comes. Silence filled the room. Kelvin sat with this knowledge. This terrible, wonderful, horrifying knowledge. Humans had found God weapons and chose not to use them. Had found power beyond measure and chose restraint. Had found the ability to conquer the galaxy and chose instead to simply defend their corner of it. Your people are terrifying, Kelvin finally said. MMEs. Yes, Thorn agreed. We terrify ourselves sometimes. But also admirable. You could have conquered us, all of us. The Valkyrie, the Draxons, everyone. You could have ruled the galaxy. We could have. We chose not to, because we studied our own history and learned what happens when power goes unchecked. We destroyed ourselves 3 times. Nuclear war in the 21st century, bioweapon plague in the 22nd, AI uprising in the 23rd. Each time we barely survived. Each time we learned the same lesson. Unlimited power corrupts. Restraint is strength. The most dangerous being in the universe is not the one who can destroy everything. It is the one who can destroy everything and chooses not to. Thorn stood, walked to the viewport. Neptune hung in the distance. Beautiful, cold, indifferent to the dramas of temporary beings. Tell your matriarch, Thorn said quietly. Tell your council, tell your empire. We do not want war. We do not want conquest. We want to be left alone to build our civilization in peace. But if anyone attacks us, they will face the full weight of architect technology wielded by a species that spent 10,000 years perfecting the art of war against itself. We will not hesitate. We will not show mercy to attackers. We will end threats permanently. He turned back to Kelvin. But also tell them this: if they choose peace, we will honor it. If they choose trade, we will be fair partners. If they choose to help us, we will help them in return. The choice is entirely theirs. We are not their enemies unless they make us their enemies. Do you understand? Kelvin's scales had settled on a deep green, the color of profound respect among his kind. I understand, Captain. I will convey your message. And I will recommend that the Valkyrie Empire choose peace, because I have seen what the alternative costs. 2,000 of my people paid that price. I do not wish to see 2 million pay it. Thorn nodded, extended his hand, the human gesture of greeting and farewell. Kelvin had studied the custom, reached out with his own clawed hand. They shook. Two warriors from different species, different worlds, different philosophies, but finding common ground in the shared desire for survival. Safe travels, Lieutenant Kelvin. I hope the next time we meet it will be as friends. As do I, Captain Thorn, as do I. Kelvin departed Neptune Station 6 hours later. His transport accelerated toward Valkyrie space, toward home, toward the council that waited for his report. He carried with him the truth about the architects, about the Titans, about the choice humanity had made 50 years ago to become guardians instead of conquerors. And he carried hope, fragile, uncertain, but real. Hope that the Valkyrie Empire could learn, could adapt, could choose peace over pride. The galaxy was changing, old rules were dying, new patterns emerging. And in that change, perhaps there was room for something better than 12,000 years of conquest. Perhaps there was room for 12,000 years of cooperation instead. Lieutenant Kelvin looked out at the stars and allowed himself to believe it was possible. Behind him on Neptune Station, Captain Aldrich Thorn returned to the autumn horizon. His ship, his command, his burden. He sat in his quarters, alone, staring at a photograph on his desk. Earth, blue and white and beautiful. Home. He thought about the choice his grandparents' generation had made, to use architect technology for defense instead of conquest, to teach through demonstration instead of words, to build a system of perfect incentives that made peace more profitable than war. It was working. He could see it working. 17 species had changed their behavior. The Valkyrie were negotiating. The galaxy was learning. But the cost, always the cost. The Draxans blockaded. The Synthera shut down. The Korvath scattered. And today 2,000 Valkyrie dead. How many more would die before the lesson was complete? How many more species would choose pride over survival? How many more times would he have to give 3 warnings and watch them be ignored? Thorn closed his eyes. Carried the weight, the burden of being the teacher who taught through death. But he also remembered the Morellians. Their lifespan extended through cooperation. The Thalassians, prospering in peaceful neutrality. The countless lives saved by teaching potential attackers to choose differently. The math was simple. Thousands dead to save millions. A brutal calculus, but necessary. Thorn opened his eyes, looked at Earth, made a promise to that beautiful blue world. I will carry this weight. I will teach this lesson. I will be the monster that prevents monsters. I will kill when necessary and spare when possible. I will be consistent, honest, brutal when attacked, kind when asked, fair when ignored. And I will hope that someday the lesson will be learned completely, that every species will understand, that peace will become the only logical choice. Until that day, I stand watch. I am the sentinel. And the protocol continues. 1 year had passed since the engagement at coordinates Delta 79. 1 year since Commander Dravik fired on the autumn horizon. 1 year since 2,090 Valkyrie warriors died learning a lesson their empire would never forget. The galaxy had changed in that year, changed in ways both subtle and profound. Lieutenant Kelvin was no longer a lieutenant. He wore the rank insignia of an admiral now. Chief Human Valkyrie Liaison Officer, the youngest admiral in Valkyrie history. Appointed not for military victories, but for something the Valkyrie Empire had rarely valued before, the ability to learn from defeat. He stood in the Grand Council chamber on the Valkyrie homeworld. Before him sat Matriarch Thesara and the 11 other council members. Behind him on a massive holographic display hung a star map of the Orion Arm. 18 sectors glowed green. 18 species, all members of what was now called the Galactic Defense Alliance, a fancy name for a simple concept. Species who had chosen to cooperate with humanity rather than fight them. The economic data is clear, Kelvin said. His translator rendered his words into the various languages of the council members. Alliance GDP has increased by 35%. Trade volume is up 42%. Conflicts between member species have decreased by 90%. Piracy has been reduced by 98%. Elder Viscara leaned forward, 900 years old now. Her scales were almost completely white, and the cost of this prosperity, shared defense obligations, technology exchange, open borders for alliance vessels, and adherence to the three principles: do not attack alliance members, assist those who request help, respect the sovereignty of neutral parties. And the humans enforce these principles. The Sentinel vessels patrol alliance space, but in the past year they have fired weapons exactly 0 times. Their presence alone is sufficient deterrent. No species that understands what happened to Commander Dravik's fleet would be foolish enough to test them again. General Kryn spoke from his seat. His scales were darker now, less vibrant red, more muted orange. A year of watching the alliance prosper while holdout species suffered had tempered his aggression. What of the 3 empires that refused to join the Korvax supremacy? The Zephyron Enclave, the Void Acolytes. Kelvin changed the holographic display. 3 sectors glowed red, isolated, surrounded by green alliance space. The Void Acolytes are religious fanatics. They believe in death worship. The humans have quarantined them. No trade in or out. They pose no threat to anyone but themselves. The Zephyron Enclave maintains strict neutrality. They want nothing from us. We want nothing from them. The humans respect this. As per the 3rd principle, sovereignty is honored. And the Korvax, the hologram zoomed in on Korvax space. 6 systems, once mighty, now struggling. The Korvax supremacy is complicated. Emperor Voldris refuses all diplomatic contact. He sees alliance membership as submission. His pride will not allow it. But his economy is collapsing. Trade routes that once passed through Korvax space now route around them. Their GDP has declined by 40%. Food shortages are widespread. Civil unrest is growing. Matriarch Thessara's ancient eyes studied the map. How long before internal pressures force change? Our analysts estimate 6 months, maybe less. Prince Theron, the Emperor's heir, has been making quiet inquiries. He understands the situation, he wants to negotiate. But he cannot act while his father lives and rules. Then we wait. The humans are not waiting. They have dispatched a diplomatic mission. Captain Aldrich Thorne commands it personally. The council chamber fell silent. That name carried weight now. The captain who had destroyed 3 cruisers in under 3 minutes. The man who had given 3 warnings and then shown no mercy when they were ignored. The teacher who taught through annihilation. Why would they send him? General Kryn asked. Thorne is a warrior, not a diplomat. Kelvin's scales shifted to pale blue. Amusement. That is precisely why they send him. The Korvax respects strength. Thorne represents strength, but he also represents restraint. He could have killed every Valkyrie in those escape pods. He chose not to. The Korvax need to see both sides of humanity, the fist and the open hand. Matriarch Thessara nodded slowly. Then we shall watch and learn, as we have been learning for the past year. Meeting adjourned. 3,000 light-years away, Captain Aldrich Thorne stood on the bridge of the Concordia. The ship was different from the autumn horizon, larger, more elegant, no hidden weapons, no disguised systems. This was a true diplomatic vessel, built to carry messages, not missiles. But everyone who saw it knew that the captain who commanded it could call down fire from heaven if diplomacy failed. That knowledge made diplomacy work. Thorne was 43 now. One more year. One more ring of gray in his hair. One more layer of lines around his eyes. 23 years of service. 7 years commanding Sentinel vessels. 15 engagements total. But also, 7 species brought into the alliance through his actions. 14 trade agreements signed because people chose cooperation over conflict. An estimated 200,000 lives saved by teaching potential attackers to make better choices. The mathematics of necessary evil. The burden of being the monster that prevented monsters. Lieutenant Cade Merrick approached from the tactical station. 33 now, he had served under Thorne for 7 years. Trusted, competent, professional. Captain, we are approaching Korvax space. Their defense grid is tracking us. No hostile action, just watching. Acknowledged. Maintain course. Standard speed. No aggressive maneuvers. We are here to talk, not fight. Chief Engineer Lyra Vex checked her console. 39 now. More gray in her dark hair. More confidence in her movements. All systems green, Captain. Shields on standby. Weapons powered down as ordered. Diplomatic protocols only, Chief. If the Korvax want war, they will have to fire first. And they know what happens to those who fire first on human vessels. The Concordia crossed into Korvax space. 6 cruisers moved to intercept, not attacking, simply establishing presence, making a statement. This is our territory. You are permitted here, but watched. Thorne opened a communication channel. Korvax vessels, this is Captain Aldrich Thorne of the diplomatic ship Concordia. We come in peace. We request permission to approach your homeworld for negotiations with Emperor Voldris. Silence for 10 seconds, 20, 30, then a response. The voice was harsh, guttural, translated through multiple layers of alien linguistics. Human vessel, you are not welcome in Korvax space. The Emperor does not negotiate with those who threaten galactic stability. Thorne's expression did not change. We threaten no one who does not threaten us first. We seek only dialogue, to discuss mutual interests, to explore possibilities for cooperation that might benefit both our peoples. The Korvax supremacy requires no cooperation from a young species. We have ruled our systems for 8,000 years. We will continue for 8,000 more. At current rates of economic decline, you will struggle to maintain stability for 8 more years. Your trade routes are disrupted. Your food production is insufficient. Your people suffer while your emperor clings to pride. Thorne paused. Let that sink in. We offer help, no conditions, no demands, simply the assistance of one civilization to another in need. Another silence. Longer this time. Finally, hold position. Do not approach the homeworld. You will wait for contact. The channel closed. Merrick looked at Thorne. Think they will negotiate? Eventually, pride is expensive, hunger is persuasive. Someone in their government understands the math. We just need to wait for them to convince their emperor. They waited. The Concordia held position at the edge of Korvax space. Days passed. Thorne used the time productively, reviewing intelligence reports, studying Korvax culture, understanding their history, their values, their fears. The Korvax supremacy had been powerful once, very powerful, an empire that spanned 50 systems at its height. They had conquered through superior tactics, better training, disciplined military forces. For 8,000 years, they had been the dominant force in their region. But dominance breeds complacency. Complacency breeds stagnation. And stagnation breeds decline. The Korvax had not innovated in 1,000 years, had not adapted to changing galactic dynamics, had believed their ancient glory would sustain them forever. Now they paid the price for that belief. On the 5th day, a message arrived, not from the Emperor, from Prince Theron, the heir, the one who understood that pride was a luxury his people could no longer afford. The holographic display activated. A Korvax face appeared. The species was reptilian. Scales of deep gold. 4 eyes arranged in a square pattern. A ridge of bone running from brow to neck. Powerful jaw. Sharp teeth visible when speaking. But the eyes. Thorne noticed them immediately. They held intelligence. Desperation. Hope. Captain Thorne, Prince Theron said, I am Theron, heir to the Korvax supremacy. I must speak with you. Privately, away from official channels. I am listening, Prince Theron. My father, Emperor Voldris, will not negotiate. He sees alliance membership as submission to a younger species. His pride will not allow it. He would rather watch our people to starve than admit that the galaxy has changed around us. I understand. Pride is a difficult thing to surrender. But I cannot watch my people suffer for my father's pride. Our food production is down 60%. We import 90% of our grain. The alliance trade routes bypass our space. Ships that once stopped at our ports now avoid us. Our economy is collapsing. Children are hungry. The elderly are dying. This cannot continue. Thorne leaned forward. What are you asking me, Prince Theron? I am asking for help, not military help, not intervention, just food, medicine, basic supplies to keep my people alive while I work to change my father's mind. I cannot ask officially. He would see it as treason. But I can ask you, human to Korvax, leader to leader, will you help us? This was a test. Thorne understood that immediately. A test of whether humans truly followed their own principles. Help those who ask regardless of politics, regardless of pride, regardless of whose side they were on. Yes, Thorne said without hesitation. We will help. How much do you need? Theron's eyes widened. All 4 of them. Just like that. No conditions, no demands for concessions. You asked for help. The 3rd principle states we help those who request it. We do not attach conditions to humanitarian aid. That would make us extortionists, not allies. Captain, if my father discovers this, he may see it as an act of war, undermining his authority, interfering with Korvac's sovereignty. Then we will be very public about it. Thorne smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. It was the smile of a chess player seeing 3 moves ahead. We will not sneak food into your space like criminals. We will broadcast our intentions across all open channels. We will tell the entire galaxy that the Korvax people requested humanitarian assistance, and we are providing it. Your father can object, but if he does, he will have to explain to your people why he prevented them from eating. Understanding dawned in Theron's eyes. You are forcing his hand, making him choose between pride and the welfare of his people. I am giving your people a choice. Your emperor can accept help and keep his pride, or he can reject help and lose his people's support. Either way, the decision is his. We are simply doing what we said we would do. Help those who ask. Thorne leaned back. Prince Theron, I am going to make a public broadcast in 1 hour. I am going to announce that the Korvax people have requested food aid and the Alliance is responding. I am going to list exactly what we are sending, how much, when it will arrive. And I am going to invite any Korvax who need assistance to come forward without fear. Your father can stop me, but he will have to do it in front of the entire galaxy. The choice is his. Theron was silent for a long moment. His scales shifted colors, gold to bronze to copper, processing, calculating, understanding. You are not just helping us, Captain. You are teaching us, the same way you taught the Valkyrie, through demonstration, through making the consequences of choices clear. Yes, but this time the lesson is different. This lesson is we keep our word. We say we help those who ask, so we help. No exceptions, no politics. Just consistent application of our stated principles. My father will not react well. Then perhaps your people need to decide whether they want a leader who values pride over their survival. Thorne's expression softened slightly. Prince Theron, I have studied your history. Your people were great once, disciplined, strategic, adaptive. You conquered 50 systems not through overwhelming force but through superior tactics and organization. That greatness is not gone. It is simply misguided, focused on maintaining past glory instead of building future prosperity. You can change that, but only if you choose to. The connection ended. Thorne turned to his crew. Lieutenant Merrick, prepare a public broadcast. All frequencies, maximum reach. Chief Vex, contact Alliance Supply Command. I want 3 cargo ships loaded with grain medicine and basic supplies. Departure within 12 hours. Destination Korvax space. Captain Dr. Oren Kelt spoke from the science station. 45 now. More gray in his beard, more wisdom in his eyes. If Emperor Voldris tries to stop the supply ships, he won't, because if he does, he becomes the villain of his own story, a leader who prevents his people from eating. No empire survives that. He is trapped between his pride and his people's hunger, and hunger always wins in the end. 1 hour later, Captain Aldrich Thorne's face appeared on every communication screen in Korvax space, every public terminal, every ship display, every home receiver. People of the Korvax supremacy, he began. His voice was calm, professional, respectful. I am Captain Aldrich Thorne of the Galactic Defense Alliance. I am speaking to you today because we have received requests from Korvax citizens for humanitarian assistance, food, medicine, basic supplies to help you through this difficult time. The Alliance does not require your government's permission to provide humanitarian aid. We do not require political agreements or membership negotiations. When people are hungry, we feed them. When people are sick, we heal them. This is not politics. This is simply what civilized beings do for one another. 3 Alliance cargo ships will arrive at the edge of Korvax space in 72 hours. They carry 10,000 tons of grain, 5,000 medical supply packages, water purification systems, emergency shelter materials. These supplies are free. No cost, no obligations, no strings attached. Any Korvax citizen who needs these supplies can come to the distribution points. No questions will be asked. No records will be kept. Your emperor may accept this aid or reject it. That is his choice. But you, the Korvax people, have a choice as well. You can choose to accept help when it is offered, or you can choose to suffer because of political pride. The decision is yours. Thorne paused. Let that sink in. Let every Korvax watching understand that they had agency. that they had options, that they did not have to starve for their emperor's pride. The alliance stands ready to help anyone who asks, now and always. This is our principle. This is our commitment, and we will honor it regardless of politics or power or pride. End transmission. The reaction was immediate. Within hours, riots broke out in 3 Korvax cities. Not violent riots, desperate ones. People demanding their government accept the aid, demanding their emperor put their welfare above his pride. Within a day, the Korvax military fractured. Junior officers refused orders to blockade the alliance supply ships. Admirals resigned rather than prevent food from reaching their own people. Within 2 days, the Korvax High Council convened an emergency session, 12 members. All eyes turned to Emperor Voldris, 620 years old, ancient by Korvax standards. Scales faded to dull bronze, pride and power slowly being eroded by reality. This is an outrage, Voldris declared. His voice shook. The humans dare to interfere with our internal affairs, to offer charity as if we are beggars, to undermine my authority before my own people. Prince Theron stood, 45 years old, young, strong, clear-eyed. Father, our people are starving. The humans offer help. Refusing that help is not strength. It is suicide. We do not need their help. The Korvax supremacy has endured for 8,000 years. We will endure this as well. At what cost? Theron's voice rose. Not in anger, in desperation. How many children must go hungry? How many elderly must die? How many of our people must suffer before you admit that the galaxy has changed, that we cannot survive on pride alone? You dare challenge me. I dare to speak truth, Father. You taught me to do that. You taught me that a leader's duty is to his people, not to his pride. You taught me that tactics require adaptation. That strategy requires flexibility. That survival requires accepting reality even when reality is painful. Theron turned to face the full council. Our reality is this. We are isolated, our economy is failing, our people are suffering, and help is being offered. Free help, no conditions, just food and medicine and basic supplies. Refusing that help accomplishes nothing except proving we would rather die proud than live humble. He turned back to his father. I love you, Father. I honor everything you have built, but I love our people more, and they need food more than they need your pride. Silence held the chamber. 12 council members waited, watching, weighing, ready to choose. Emperor Voldris stared at his son, at the challenge, at the truth he did not want to face. His claws gripped the armrests of his throne. His scales shifted colors, bronze to gray, to copper, to gray again. Pride, fear, anger, resignation. Finally, he spoke. The council will vote on whether to accept alliance humanitarian aid and on whether I remain fit to lead. The vote took less than 5 minutes. On the aid, 12-0 in favor. On the emperor's fitness to rule 6-6, a tie. Prince Theron cast the deciding vote. I vote for my father to step down, not because he is evil, not because he is weak, but because the empire needs a leader who can adapt to the galaxy as it is not as it was. Father, I am sorry, but our people need to survive, and survival requires change. Voldris stood, slowly, his old bones protesting. He removed the ceremonial collar of leadership, handed it to his son. You were right, I taught you well, perhaps too well. Rule wisely, my son. Do not let the humans make us their servants. They do not want servants, Father. They want partners, or neutrals, or nothing at all. The choice is ours. 3 days later, the Alliance supply ships entered Korvax space. No one stopped them. No one fired on them. They distributed food to millions, medicine to thousands. Hope to an entire empire that had forgotten what hope felt like. And Prince Theron, Emperor Theron sent a message to Captain Aldrich Thorne. You did not conquer us, Captain. You did not threaten us. You simply showed us what we were becoming and gave us the choice to become something better. For that, I thank you. The Korvax supremacy wishes to negotiate alliance membership, if you will have us. Thorne read the message in his quarters aboard the Concordia. An entire empire saved by showing them a better path. The mathematics were getting better. The scales were starting to balance. He wrote a simple reply. Emperor Theron, the Alliance welcomes all who choose cooperation over conflict. Come to Earth. See what we are building. Decide for yourself if it is worth joining. 2 months later, a fleet of ships approached Earth's solar system. Not a military fleet, a diplomatic one. 18 species, 18 ambassadors. coming to see humanity's homeworld for the first time. Admiral Kelvin was there, representing the Valkyrie Empire. He had been the first, the one who survived, the one who learned. Now he would witness the next step in the Alliance's evolution. Emperor Theron was there, new to his throne, uncertain, but willing to learn. Representatives from the Morellian Commonwealth, the Thalassian Expanse, 15 other species, all coming to Earth, all seeking to understand the beings who had changed the galaxy in just 1 year. Captain Aldrich Thorne commanded the escort fleet. The Concordia led a formation of 12 ships, not sentinel vessels, not warships, just ordinary Alliance ships demonstrating that humans could be more than warriors. They passed Mars. The red planet was being terraformed, green patches visible along the equator, entire cities under construction. Humanity's first major colony world. 1 billion people would live there eventually. They passed the asteroid belt, mining operations everywhere. Refineries processing raw materials, construction yards building ships, the infrastructure of a growing civilization. They approached Earth, and there, for those with the right sensors, for those who knew what to look for, the 12 Titans became visible. Massive structures in high orbit, each one kilometers long, each one glowing faintly with internal power, each one dormant, waiting, ready. Admiral Kelvin saw them first. His scales drained to white. Captain Thorne, those structures in orbit, are they? Yes, Admiral. Those are the Titans, the architect weapons we discovered 50 years ago. All 12 of them. Inactive, guarded, never deployed. Emperor Theron's voice came over the communication channel. How much power do they hold? Enough to destroy solar systems. Enough to reshape the galaxy. Enough to make us wishes in my ushered monsters. Thorne paused. They have been in orbit for 50 years. We have never activated them. Not once. Because using them would mean something has gone catastrophically wrong. The diplomatic fleet fell silent, staring at the Titans, understanding perhaps for the first time the true scope of human restraint. The weapons were there, available, ready. But humanity chose not to use them, chose to build a defensive fleet instead, chose to teach through smaller demonstrations, chose restraint over domination. You could rule the galaxy, Kelvin whispered. Yes, Thorne agreed. We could. We choose not to, because ruling through fear would make us tyrants. And 10,000 years of human history taught us what happens to tyrants. They fall, always. We prefer to lead through example, to teach through demonstration, to earn cooperation rather than demand submission. The fleet descended to Earth, not to a military base, not to a space station, to Geneva, Switzerland, ground level, walking on the actual surface of the human homeworld, a gesture of profound trust. Fleet Admiral Sienna Korvax was there to greet them. 65 years old, silver hair pulled back severely, face marked with lines earned through 40 years of command. She wore her uniform, clean, pressed, professional, every centimeter a leader. Welcome to Earth, she said simply. Welcome into our home. We invite you here not as subordinates but as equals, partners in building something better than 12,000 years of conquest and domination, partners in proving that cooperation is stronger than conflict. The ceremony was held in the same hall where centuries before humans had signed treaties ending wars, the same hall where they had negotiated peace after near destroying themselves. The symbolism was intentional. 18 species, 18 signatures. The Galactic Concordat, a simple document with simple principles. Article 1, attack any Alliance member and face collective defense. Article 2, requested aid and receive unconditional assistance. Article 3, remain neutral and have sovereignty respected completely. Article 4, technology, shared only for peaceful purposes. The vote was unanimous. 18 species choosing cooperation, choosing to learn from humanity's example, choosing the harder path of partnership over the easier path of conquest. Captain Aldrich Thorne stood at the back of the hall, watching, not speaking. This was not his moment. This was the moment for diplomats and leaders, for people who built peace rather than enforced it. But Admiral Kelvin found him anyway. The Valkyrie officer approached quietly, respectfully. Captain Thorne, I wanted to thank you for everything, for teaching my people, for showing us a better way. Thorne turned, studied the Admiral, saw the young lieutenant who had tried to warn Commander Dravik, the survivor who had chosen to learn instead of seeking revenge, the leader who had helped guide the Valkyrie Empire away from pride and toward pragmatism. You taught yourself, Admiral. I just provided the demonstration. You chose to learn from it. That choice was yours, not mine. Still, without you, 2,000 of my people would not have died. But also without you, 2 million more might have fought in subsequent conflicts. The mathematics are difficult. Yes, Thorne agreed. They are. Emperor Theron joined them, young, uncertain, but committed. Captain Thorne, I have a question. What happens now? We have signed the treaty. We have joined the alliance. But what does that mean for my people, for all our peoples? Thorne considered the question. It means you have made a choice to build rather than conquer, to trade rather than raid, to cooperate rather than dominate. It means you have access to alliance trade networks, technology exchange, mutual defense. It means you are no longer alone in the galaxy. You have partners, allies, friends. The ceremony concluded. The treaty was signed. The 18 species began the process of integration, trade agreements, technology exchanges, cultural programs, the slow, difficult work of building trust across species that had never trusted before. Admiral Korvax approached Thorne as the diplomats dispersed. Captain, well done, bringing the Korvax into the alliance without firing a shot. That is the kind of victory we need more of. Thank you, Admiral. Though I did not bring them in, I simply showed them the consequences of their choices and let them decide. Emperor Theron brought himself in. Modest as always, Captain, but we both know your role was critical. Korvax paused. I have new orders for you. The Council wants you to address the assembled species, to speak about what the Alliance means, what we are trying to build. They want to hear from the man who has enforced the principles, who has demonstrated what happens when they are violated. Thorne's expression tightened. Admiral, I am not a politician. I am not a speaker. I am a soldier who follows orders and kills people who attack us. That is not someone who should be giving inspirational speeches. That is precisely why you should give the speech, Captain. Because you understand the cost. Because you carry the weight. Because you are not a politician promising easy solutions. You are a warrior who knows that peace requires strength, and that strength requires sacrifice. Thorne looked out the window, at Earth, at the planet that had nearly destroyed itself 3 times and somehow chose survival each time, at the home of a species that had learned the hard way that unlimited power corrupts and restraint is strength. Very well, Admiral. I will speak. The hall was silent when Captain Aldrich Thorne walked to the podium. 18 species, hundreds of representatives, all watching, all waiting. He looked out at them, saw Admiral Kelvin's green scales, saw Emperor Theron's hopeful expression, saw beings from across the galaxy who had chosen cooperation over conflict. My name is Aldrich Thorne, he began. I am 43 years old. I have served in the military for 23 years. I have commanded Sentinel vessels for 7 years. In that time, I have killed 7,392 beings who chose to attack human vessels despite clear warnings. The silence deepened. No one had expected him to start with that. I remember every number. I carry every death. I will carry them for the rest of my life, because that is the price of being the teacher who teaches through annihilation. That is the burden of enforcing the principles we have all agreed to follow. He paused. But I also carry another number, 200,000. That is the estimated number of lives saved by teaching potential attackers to make different choices. Species that saw what happened to those who attacked us and decided cooperation was a better path. People who are alive today because the lesson was taught clearly and consistently. This is the mathematics we live with, the brutal calculus of necessary evil. Kill thousands to save millions. Destroy ships to preserve peace. Be the monster that prevents monsters. Thorne's blue-green eyes swept across the assembly. But here is the truth that matters most. We did not want this role. Humanity did not seek to become the galaxy's teacher. We did not desire to enforce principles through violence. We wanted to be left alone to build our civilization in peace, to explore the stars, to discover new things, to grow and learn and become better than we were. But the galaxy did not allow that. The Draxans attacked our colonies. The Synthara hacked our systems. The Korvath raided our trade routes. The Velkari fired on our ships. Again and again we were attacked by species who saw our preference for peace as weakness, who thought they could take from us without consequence. So we adapted. We found ancient weapons. We debated for years what to do with them. And we chose a middle path. Build a defensive fleet. Make ourselves too dangerous to attack. But never use that power for conquest. Be strong enough that war becomes unthinkable. but restrained enough that we never become the threat we defended against. He leaned forward. This is what the alliance represents, not human dominance, not conquest disguised as cooperation, but a simple bargain. Follow three principles and thrive. Attack alliance members and face destruction. Request help and receive it. Maintain neutrality and have it honored. Three rules. Three outcomes. Clear, consistent, predictable. Some of you are here because you learned these principles the hard way. The Valkyrie lost 2,000 warriors. The Korvax faced economic collapse. Others learned by observation. The Morellians saw the pattern and chose cooperation. The Thalassians saw the pattern and chose neutrality. Both paths are valid. Both are respected. Thorne straightened. Admiral Kelvin said something to me earlier. He said the strongest force in the universe is not the power to destroy, but the choice not to use it. He is correct. But I would add this. The choice only has meaning if the power is real. If we could not destroy, our restraint would be meaningless. It is because we can annihilate that our mercy has value. Humanity has the power to rule this galaxy. The 12 titans you saw in orbit could reshape star systems, could enforce absolute dominance, could make us gods or tyrants. We have chosen neither. We have chosen to be teachers instead, partners instead, equals instead. This choice is not easy. It requires constant vigilance, constant restraint, constant reminder that power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. We must always remember that the moment we use the titans for conquest, we become the very thing we built them to defend against. We become the monsters, the destroyers, the end of civilization. So we choose differently every day, every engagement, every decision. We choose restraint. We choose proportional response. We choose to teach rather than conquer. And we hope that the galaxy learns, that species see the pattern and make rational choices. That cooperation becomes more profitable than conflict. Thorne's voice softened. You are here because you chose to learn, because you saw the pattern and made the logical decision, because you valued survival over pride, prosperity over dominance, partnership over conquest. For that choice, I thank you. On behalf of humanity and the Alliance, I thank you for choosing the harder path, the path of cooperation, the path of mutual respect, the path of peace. But I must also warn you, this path requires commitment, requires sacrifice, requires accepting that sometimes pride must be surrendered for survival, that sometimes old ways must change to accommodate new realities, that sometimes we must adapt or die. The galaxy is changing. Old empires are fading. New partnerships are forming. Species that once conquered are now cooperating. Species that once feared each other are now trading. This is not weakness. This is evolution. This is adaptation. This is survival. And perhaps if we are wise, if we are committed, if we are strong enough to choose restraint over domination, this is also hope. Hope that the next 12,000 years will be better than the last 12,000. Hope that our children will inherit a galaxy of cooperation rather than conquest. Hope that peace is not just the absence of war, but the presence of something better, something worth building, something worth protecting. Thorne stepped back from the podium. The Sentinel Protocol stands. Those who attack us die. Those who help us prosper. Those who leave us alone remain sovereign. 3 rules. Clear. Consistent, eternal. This is our promise to the galaxy, and we will keep it, now and always. The silence held for 3 heartbeats. Then Admiral Kelvin stood. His scales shifted to brilliant green, the color of deep respect. He began to applaud, a human gesture. Adopted, honored. Emperor Theron stood, joined the applause. One by one, all 18 species rose, all applauding, all acknowledging the truth of what had been said, the burden carried, the choices made, the path forward. Captain Aldrich Thorne stood at the podium, 43 years old, the weight of being the monster that prevented monsters, but also perhaps the beginning of something better, something that might justify the terrible cost. He looked out at the assembled species, at the representatives of 18 civilizations choosing cooperation, at the future being built one difficult choice at a time. And for the first time in 7 years, he allowed himself to hope. The ceremony ended, the treaty was signed, the Alliance continued its work, and in Earth orbit, the 12 Titans remained dormant, waiting, ready, but unused. The galaxy's most powerful weapons, humanity's ultimate insurance policy, but also hopefully weapons that would never need to be used, because the lesson had been taught, the pattern established, the choice made clear. Captain Aldrich Thorne returned to the Concordia, sat in his quarters, stared at Earth through the viewport. The mathematics were balancing. The hope was growing. Perhaps someday the burden would lighten. Perhaps the monster could retire. Perhaps the warrior could finally lay down his arms. Someday, but not today. Today the Sentinel Protocol stood. Today the watch continued. Today the galaxy learned. And tomorrow perhaps the future would be brighter than the past. That hope, fragile and uncertain as it was enough. Because sometimes hope is all you need to build a better world.